Artistic Gamer 7, and welcome back to another speed build here on the channel. So, with this one, there is going to be 3 parts. I do want to actually ask, I know I don't get too many comments down in the comment section, but I would like your all's, suggestions or, opinions on when it comes to longer speed builds. Do you like the way that I've been doing them with splitting them up into smaller parts so that, you can watch part 1, and then if you got other things you need to do, you can leave and, not have to, pause the video and worry about whether or not YouTube saved the spot where you left off and then having to refine the spot? Or do you actually prefer longer videos when it comes to speed builds so that you can watch the whole speed build in one sitting and not have to wait or find the other parts? And, if you're someone who sometimes multitasks, so you're doing other things as you're watching videos, which I do a lot if I'm working on art. A lot of times if I'm editing and things like that, I will watch videos and stuff as I edit. I sort of like them to be there in the background. I do still watch them and I listen to them and things like that. I'm paying attention to them, but also multitasking. I like multitasking in general. I prefer to multitask, but I know not everyone's like me. So I personally usually prefer longer videos just because, I like having that video constantly back there. I like watching it in one go, but I also don't mind when people break them up into parts. It's not a big deal which way or the other it goes, but I'm just curious on what y'all's stance on that. Would y'all prefer longer videos, or do you like the shorter videos but multiple parts? So, because I do try to get it, I try my best to get these speed build videos down into one part, but sometimes it's just not possible, especially with the bigger builds, at least me personally. There's some people out there that somehow are able to do speed build videos in one part no matter how big they are. So I don't know how they do it. I don't go into a build having 100% idea what I'm doing. So I'm still deciding things as I'm going. Even when I have multiple pictures that I'm basing a build off of, it still takes me a while because I'm still deciding some things or I'm changing some things. Yeah, I replicate the video, but I decided I don't like it too much in the build, or I take multiple different buildings and I take I like the porch of this, I like the front of this, I like this little pond area of this, and I take the bits and pieces and I put them together in one build, but in the end I may not actually like the outcome of them all being together, so I might change that. I don't know how some people do it, but I can't do it. I've gotten better at being faster at these builds and not trying to get the camera too wonky. But I'm afraid if I speed it up too much that what camera movements I do and things like that will be too crazy. So I really don't want to speed it up too much, because for those people who can get sensitive to motion and things like that, I don't want to bother them because I've sped up the video so much trying to force it into one video. So even speeding this up the fastest that I was okay speeding it up with, there was no way to really get it into one video. And borderline getting it, I didn't even think it was going to be worth speeding it up that much to get it into 2 videos, because it was still going to be 2 decently long videos. So I decided to go split it into 3, slightly slow it down so that the speed wasn't too chaotic, and have it in only 20 to 25 minutes depending. Now when I do voiceovers, a lot of times I find things that I missed in the editing process. That's why I say 20 to 25. I plan on all of them being about 24-25 minutes, because the initial video was going to be around 1 hour and 24 minutes. Or no, not that. What was it? What was it going to be? I did the math for the video. And basically, all videos were going to be about the same length, except for the third one. It was going to be a slightly different length, which usually the last part is, because that's just how it ends up. Because a lot of times it's shorter, or you've miscalculated even just slightly, and it's enough that it goes over. But the first part it's usually what you plan for it to be, and sometimes, like, if you have multiple parts, they're usually close. But, you know, that last part sometimes is a variable. But anyway, they should be somewhere around 25 minutes. But, I already know with this first part, because I've actually already done this voiceover once, but something was wonky with the mic. I think the cable was loose, because I took the cable out and re-put it back in and tested it. Seems fine now, so I'm having to redo this whole thing. But, you know, the good thing about redoing this, I have more of an idea of what I was intending to say, so things might go out a little bit smoother for this one. So yeah, anyway, please let me know down in the comments below. What is your preferred length when it comes to speed builds? Not just videos in general, specifically speed builds. Like, which ones do you prefer, like, that length? Because, you know, an LP versus a speed build versus a cast video, you're going to want different sizes. My cast videos, I definitely do not try to go over, like, 15 minutes versus my speed builds anywhere from 25 to 35 I'm okay with. My LPs, I try to get around 30, like 25 to 30, like, so, you know, what... It's going to be different, but so I'm just asking specifically for speed builds. But now we're going to get onto the build. As you can see, I did start with the backyard sort of first and the pool, which is a little strange. I fully don't know why I did that, because I did use one reference image for this house. And I couldn't tell if this reference image was supposed to be the front of the house or the back of the house. I personally would have preferred it to be the back of the house, so that's what I made it. So yeah, I was starting with the back of the house just because I did have a reference, and I was using that reference for the back half of the house. But this house didn't have a pool in the picture that I was using. I just sort of decided I wanted a pool, and I wanted like a little rock feature with like a fountain sort of thing coming out of it with like plants and stuff around it. And when I was in live edit objects mode, I found that gazebo, and I come across it quite often, and I've always wanted to use it, so I decided I'd try to incorporate it in this build. I made like that area and stuff like that, knowing that in the end I might get rid of it, just because I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to stick with it. I did keep it. I will say it does stick out somewhat more so because of this build, because I do go with some more darker tones with even like the outside of the build. And even into the inside of the build, but I still like how it looks, and I think the way that it's like a little further away from the house, and it almost has like the, of course, if you do download this and you don't put it in the exact same spot, this is going to be different, but for me personally, as I was building this, it had the background of Del Sol Valley in it, and like the Overlook, part of the reason why I'm calling it the Overlook Mansion, behind it and things like that. I thought it was fine, so I do keep it, I don't get rid of it, I do add some even more plants around it, not like a whole lot more, but a little bit more, and it ends up being like a little event area. Basically, it's set up to look more like a wedding thing, and that's probably what I'd mainly use it as. Like, you know, maybe this family, like all the members in this family come to this house to have their wedding, so that it's a little bit cheaper and things like that, even though, you know, obviously this is a really huge house, so chances are most of the family probably has some money. But with this particular house, it is a mansion, it is a huge house, and I didn't make a family for this house, but I was envisioning a family, like I was sort of coming up with a family as I was going in my head, and they are rich, they technically are like celebrities and things like that, or at least one of the members of the household is, and yes, they have money, but in my head it was like, yeah, they have money, but they don't necessarily flaunt it, or they're not necessarily among some of the richest. Yes, like they're in this big lavish neighborhood, but I'm imagining they're one of the, like, obviously they're not poor, but just to get the point out there, comparatively to everyone else around them, they're one of the poorer families. By no means are they actually poor though. So they have less money than most of the people around them. So yes, this is a mansion. Yes, there's a lot in it. There's the formal living room and a not so formal living room. But some of the things that I do decide, I kept in mind that I didn't necessarily want this family to be super rich. I didn't want them, or at least, you know, they don't try to come off that way, because they came from backgrounds where they had to basically really work hard and fight for their money, so they don't try to flaunt their money too much in people's faces. They don't they kept that like that mindset when buying things. Like, they didn't try to go for the absolute most expensive thing. So, like, even like when I was looking at the couches, I was trying to get couches that looked more casual. The one couch that I really wanted to use did not have a love seat, not a love seat, a like regular just one person chair that really matched with it. And that irritates me that with a lot of the couches, there's not, in some cases, there's not a love seat or a regular chair to match with it at all. Or it's just, there's just a love seat to match with it, but not a chair. Or there's just a chair and not a love seat to match with it. Or there's a love seat without a couch to match. Like, you know what, like, there's not all three. And in some cases, I've come across builds where I want to use all three in a room. Like, the love seat may be off in the corner somewhere, and then the couch and the singular chairs are facing the TV, but I want all of the chairs to sort of, all of them to sort of match up with each other like they were a set. Or if I have a situation where I choose a couch and I do use a love seat instead of like the singular chairs because of whatever layout I'm doing, or vice versa with the singular chairs, you know, but it only has an option in the one that I'm not using, it irritates me somewhat. But yeah, anyway, so when I do pick some of the objects, I don't go for the most expensive object, or at least I try not to. Now, some of them I do just because the way it looks, I preferred it, but overall, I try not to go for some of the more expensive items. I didn't fully take out the expensive items. I wasn't necessarily trying to completely avoid them. I still use them in cases where I felt it needed, but I wasn't purposely trying to go for more expensive items just because I was going with the theme of this being a mansion and it's in Del Sol Valley and it's in the celebrity area. That was not the plan. I didn't want this family to come off as like super rich or like, you know, they're very showy of their richness. Like, I do put a piano. For some reason I've wanted to build where I've been able to put a piano in it, but the pianos they have are hard to fit sometimes. I wish there was a piano that was like the more rectangular pianos, almost set up like an organ, but it's actually a piano. There used to be one in my house, and I loved that thing. It was actually a pretty small sized piano. It fit in a hallway. So, it wasn't a huge piano, but it's either take the big organ with all the big pipes on it that actually fits up against the wall better, or take the regular classic piano that is huge. But yeah, I've been wanting to put a piano in a build for a really long time, so there's a piano in this one. I finally got to put a piano. I don't even know why I had that urge, I just did. I specifically made sure that I had a formal living room so that I could put a piano in it. But I didn't put the more fancy piano. I did look at it, and in the end, not only did I just prefer the look of the other one because the gold on the other piano was a little too much, but also with the whole fact that I was trying not to go like too full lovish lifestyle with this, so yeah, anyway. But you won't see that until like part 2. Part 1 is mainly getting the structure of the house together, building the outside, getting that stuff done, and doing a lot of the decorating of outside. The finishing touches of the outside and doing some of the outside decorations is going to be in the first part of part 2, and then it's going to start heading inside. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I did try to go with some more darker tones in this build. Obviously, when it comes to the outside wallpapering, it's not necessarily dark because there is like some dark stonework in there, but because of some of the stones and like, I don't know if that's a plaster that it's meant to be or what it's technically called, I'm not exactly sure. But the thing that the bricks are like sitting inside of, there's another thing that starts with an M that it might be mortar or something. But I don't think that's it. I don't know a lot of these terms, like the stuff that's used to actually build actual houses in real life. But anyway, so yeah, whatever it's sitting in, cement, plaster, mortar, whatever the heck it is. It's obviously really light comparatively, but when it comes to all the accents and stuff on this house, I do use darker tones. The roof I choose is a little bit on the darker side. Not the darkest option, I don't think, but it is on the darker side. I use a lot of blacks for like a lot of these columns are black. The fencing has a darker brown and a black. I use the darker brown wooding and things like that, and all stuff like that. And when I did that, because partially, me personally, I do like a lot of these darker tones. I do know that it can which I think that usually applies for the inside, but a lot of darker color tones and colors can make stuff look smaller than it actually is. But I personally like a lot of darker tones and things and stuff. I don't know why. I don't like the completely bright white rooms. I do not like that. I don't like when there's a lot of light color going on in a house. Like, if it's not my house and, like, building Sims houses, like, I can build those houses and still think they're pretty. I'm not saying they're not pretty, and I'm not saying those rooms that are like that are not pretty. But if I was to ever consider that house for myself, that would automatically, like, make me not want it as much. I would go for more darker tones for a house. But also, some of the builds that I had done more recently had a lot of lighter tones. I know, like, probably if you look through a lot of my builds, I have done quite a few of them with darker tones on the outside of them. But I feel like it's pretty even, if not leaning slightly more to the lighter tone side. But yeah, anyway, the recent builds I have done have been a lot of more lighter tones, so I did want to actually do one with some darker tones on it. And also, the sort of accent color, or the color that I'm going to be using a lot in this build, that is not one of these stone wood colors or whatever, looks a lot better with darker tones than with the brighter tones. And that is, you might see a lot of it in the plants that I've done, especially around there, is the color red. So red is actually my favorite color, but I do almost avoid it using too much red in builds, especially for rooms that are outside of, like, bedrooms, because a lot of people don't like red being overwhelming, or the way red could look when it's done an extensive amount. So I do try not to, like, use it a whole lot. It's not like every single room that you go into is just gonna scream red in your face. But that is gonna be the common color throughout the house. There is going to be, except for in, like, the bedrooms, because the bedrooms start getting the personalities of whoever is in that bedroom. Like I said, I sort of came up with a family as I was building this build. So their personality is fitting for the room, and so red is not in those rooms, but pretty much every other room has some sort of type of red, whether it's a darker shade of red or a lighter tint of red. There is a red somehow incorporated in every room, and it may be something smaller, it may be a lot things, but like even in the bathrooms, which I actually don't show the bathrooms, you don't see the bathrooms except for the master bathroom until part 3. So part 3 has the screenshots and stuff in it. It's also where the master bathroom would be, because that's like the last thing I did. But yes, so even those, they have the same thing red in them for every single one, and it's only one thing. And that is a potted plant, and the pot of the plant is red. But it's there in every bathroom. So, and I will say though, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if the master bathroom itself has red in it, which is going to annoy me now, because I made sure to do it in every single room that wasn't like just a hallway, stairway type thing, or a bedroom. And the master bath is connected to the main person who lives in this house, who would be mainly doing the red. Because it would be the main person who owns this house that is deciding to put red everywhere. So now I'm a little annoyed with myself. But anyway. So now you got a like brief idea of how the rest of this build is sort of going to be turning out. There is some darker tones, there's red, and things like that. But hope that you're looking forward to seeing how the build finishes and seeing the other 2 parts. I should remember to put them down in the description below for part 2 and 3 when they come out. Definitely make sure that you're subscribed and have the little notification bell so that you don't miss when those do actually go live. Hit that lovely like button if you're enjoying this build so far and have enjoyed the video. Please let me know the whole link thing with the speed build videos down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!